This episode is brought to you by Honda. When you test drive the all-electric Prologue SUV, there's a lot that could impress you about it. There's the generous passenger space, the clean, thoughtful design, and the intuitive technology. But out of everything, what you'll really love most is that it's a Honda. Visit honda.com/EV to see offers.
This Steve Jones Show podcast is now loading. The Steve Jones Show podcast is presented by Sunbury Motor Company, Purdy Insurance, and Brewers Outlet. Bringing you an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Purdy Insurance, Brewers Outlet, and Sunbury Motor Company. Now from the Sunbury Motor Studio, here's Steve Jones.
And this half hour brought to you by our good friends at Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street in Sunbury, the beverage supermarket, imports, domestics, microbrews, the best selection of beer anywhere. Wine coolers, water, soft drink, snacks. They roast their peanuts fresh and out every day. 6 great flavors of slushies. And ready-to-drink cocktails, High Noon, Jack Daniel's, Crown Royal, and the Pickle Bar led by the Barrels and the Dills, indeed second to none. All at Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street in Sunbury, the beverage supermarket. And with that, we bring in one of the absolute best in the business and even a better guy away from the business, and that is Mike DeCourcy. Mike, welcome back. Great to have you with us.
Hey, Steve, how are you?
Doing very, very well. Did you get over to the U.S. Open at all?
I did not, no. I spent the weekend in New York City, taking my niece there. My wife and I have a tradition with that, taking our nieces to New York for their college graduations. And so we saw a couple shows. We had a very nice time.
Which shows you go to?
We saw Anne Juliet, which was my niece's pick, and which is an amazing show. I did not have I looked at the critics' stuff. They mostly liked it, but I didn't have great expectations for it. It's so clever. It is a very wonderful show. And then we saw Death Becomes Her, which is nominated for this year's Tony Award. Didn't win, but it's a great show. It's a lot of fun, very clever, and we enjoyed both of them immensely.
One more on this. Which theaters were they in?
Gosh, the one, the Death Becomes Her is at the Lunt Fontaine, and the Anne Juliet is at the Stephen Sondheim currently.
Okay, great. Of course, the House settlement has gone through. For some odd reason, I have a feeling there'll be more court action. We'll leave it at that. But what, at least initially, if anything, does this do in your mind in college sports, especially in football and basketball?
I'll be honest, I don't think it really does anything, and I'll tell you why. Because for the first year of its existence, nearly all, I mean, we can't say all, but nearly all. I mean, like when I say nearly all, I'm talking about 98, 99% all. Of the NIL deals under the old style NIL were already put into place.
Right.
Teams wanted to get such and such a player, so they went aggressively after that player and paid him or her a bunch of money through the collective concept to make sure they got the players they wanted. That's been going on throughout the 2024-25 school year recruiting process, and in advance of the final settlement, which happened very recently. And so that doesn't really have any impact on this year, other than players now will get more money than they've ever gotten, because they'll also get the revenue share money that the schools can now pay. And then we go to 26, 27, and that's where I think the 1 year where this process will be in existence unabated. That'll be it. And then I think once somebody is turned down for an NIL deal that would have been approved, there would have been no one to say no previously. Once that gets turned down, it's all going to end up in court again. I don't know why they think this is going to work. It seems ridiculous to me that if I can get $4 million in the 2025-26 school year and then you're just going to pay me $400,000 in 26, 27. How am I supposed to say? Why would I say that's fine? I mean, right. I don't understand how they think that's going to stand.
I believe when the Deloitte representatives went to Amelia Island to talk with the ACC coaches and athletic directors, they gave a presentation, and they didn't want to get into specifics, but they gave approximate numbers. And they said, I think they said 90% of the deals, high on Mike DeCourcy 4, would get approved. But 70% of the collectives would not get approved. Right? On the surface, that sounds good, because it's anything over $600 they have to rubber stamp. I mean, what is your thought on what their, quote, independent role happens to be?
Well, I think they're to follow the conditions that were set up by this concept, which is I divide it into two categories, really. There is Cooper Flag NIL, which is I'm sure he got collective money as well, but the Cooper Flag NIL example is Gatorade, Allstate, AT&T, et cetera. Right. Or State Farm, whichever one he was with. But Gatorade and AT&T for sure, and New Balance, I know he's got to deal with them. And that's Cooper Flag NIL money. And that's not going to be a problem. If there's another Cooper Flag, or even to a lesser extent, someone who's prominent in a program where a local business, a car dealer, or a car dealer is always a good example, it can have a signing or maybe an ad campaign or something like that. The money isn't at the collective level, but it would not be insignificant. That'll still be approved, and so that will put money in the athlete's pocket. But what you might look in terms of the collective on NIL, that is probably going away under this, at least temporarily going away, or it's going to be blocked, and that's where the accounting firm comes in, Deloitte. They're probably, as you said, they've suggested they'll probably block most of that concept, and that's where, again, look, they can do that, and that's fine, and for as long as that stands, it'll stand, but I don't think it stands very long, because when you allow people to do something, and there's no impediment to that, and then you put an impediment to that costs somebody money, then they're probably going to court. And the problem with that is that it's not only that. Usually what ends up happening is you end up having to pay more. And so why would we even be going down this road? So you can have the illusion of balance for maybe 1 year, and then all of a sudden you're in court for another 3 or 4 years, and you're racking up legal fees, and then damages come, and you got to. It just seems to me it's so unnecessary. This has been really a very competitive environment over the last couple of years when collective NIL has been unabated. It's been very competitive. We've seen teams that maybe weren't anticipated either have significant roles in championship competition, like Indiana football this past season. We've seen a very competitive college football playoff, which was entertaining. Another great NCAA tournament, and the only real problem here is the transfer portal in terms of immediate eligibility year after year after year. That's probably the only problem that exists relative to the way sports usually run. You're much better off trying to sit down and hash out a collective bargaining agreement to control that than to put yourself in the circumstance where you're probably going to wind up losing it in court again.
All right, so we'll stick in court for a moment, and that is Title IX challenges. Jeffrey Kessler said, no, this is not a Title IX case, and it sounds like Judge Claudia Wilken agree with that element. Does Title IX, in your mind, you and I both know there'll be a suit up over it, but does it play a role in this?
It's hard to say because it depends on if you're and this is where the terminology maybe matters. It's revenue share. you're sharing in the revenue generated by the programs. But if your program doesn't generate a lot of revenue, how can you complain you're not getting a fair deal? And I like, if there's certain programs, and we all know who they are, but I'm not going to name any names, where they do generate revenue in particular sports. Mm-hmm. Some of the baseball programs down south, women's basketball at certain institutions, volleyball at certain institutions generate significant revenue. And if there's no share there, then you have a problem.
Yeah, women's gymnastics.
Yeah, women's gymnastics at particular schools, I think could be said to generate revenue. So if you're not sharing there with the athletes that participate, then I think you'll encounter legal challenges. Absolutely. But if you're a golf team or something where you really generate no revenue at all, mm-hmm. I don't know why there would be an issue. So I'm not sure exactly how Title IX plays into it. Mm-hmm. But again, I do think that's another area where the collective NIL had been a boon to some of those programs as well. The softball pitcher mm-hmm. at Texas Tech, for instance, that I don't know her name. I don't really follow the spring sports, baseball or softball, but I know that she was paid 7 figures through the collective, and that was a big deal. It helped Texas Tech get to the final of the women's mm-hmm. college World Series. And so it was evening out the process a little bit in that regard, and I think the revenue share it'll strike women's sports as much as it does men's sports as well.
Mike, basketball coaches will be allowed a challenge for the upcoming season. What is your thought on that?
Yeah, I like this concept, going away from official initiated reviews on every contested out of bounds play.
Me too.
I like going to that because what's bothered me over the course of time is not just that it takes so long, which doesn't help the sport, but mm-hmm. also that we've gotten into this idea of the fingertip.
Yes.
The fingertip touch.
Yes.
And, Steve, if you had been a ball handler, and this is a concept this is really a fantastic scenario. I'm going to divide it because it involves me playing defense. But if you were a ball handler and I were guarding you, and I reached in and I slapped the ball away from you, for 150 years of basketball history, that's off me. I'm the one who caused the ball to go out of bounds. But we had this thing. It started in the 2019 Final Four. I remember that well, where the ball went off one player's fingertip after it was slapped out, and mm-hmm. that changed the game. And so then they started to go to the review monitor over and over and over again to look for that, and it's nonsense. I mean, you're not going to have that any longer unless it's the end of the game and the coach hasn't used this challenge, and it's a last case scenario. If I don't challenge this, I'm probably losing anyway, so let's go ahead and do it. So you're not going to have many of those fingertips. It's going to be obvious stuff, and so I like that. We're getting away from the fingertip thing and into real potential mistakes that are honest mistakes. It's not easy always to see who the mm-hmm. ball goes off.
That's right. No, I agree. See, I always refer to it as, oh, great, we're looking for the fingernail. Great.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, I say that all the time. We're looking for the fingernail. I should have trimmed it that day. What are we doing here? And it's just you and I feel exactly the same way about it. You love the pure game football, soccer.
Yes.
What can American sports learn from how they run their sport that we should consider here?
I'll be honest with you. I love the sport, but I'm not sure that I don't believe in promotion relegation as a great concept.
I agree with you. I think it needs to be where it has been because this is how they set it up. But mm-hmm. it doesn't need to be force-fed to American sports because everybody else is doing it. No, I don't buy that. Like Major League Soccer does not need promotion and relegation. It needs growth, and it is growing. So no, I don't need that. I think that instant replay review in soccer is probably better than it is in some sports and not as good as others. So I don't know that they necessarily have anything to teach us there.
So I wouldn't say. I would say that they need to learn more from American sports and how we do things here, and how we're able to grow our sports and make them more compelling. And so I think, honestly, there are probably some things I would do in regards to. One thing I would say is that the youth in international basketball, like through the club systems that they have, they always play with a clock. And it's always 24 seconds. I would not have American youth play with a 24-second clock. I like the 30-second clock for high school and other such youth events.
Agreed.
But I would definitely have, like, if I were czar of high school basketball, every kid would be playing with a clock. There are so many silly excuses about why they don't. Cost is a factor, but they do a lot of other things. It's not that prohibitive. That you can get a shot clock system for not that much money. And then they talk about running it. I mean, Steve, when I was a manager in 8th grade for the 9th grade basketball team at Elizabeth Forward Junior High, I was running the clock. I was in 8th grade. I was 13 years old. If I could do that, you think you can't find a 25-year-old to run a shot clock? Who are we kidding?
I agree with you. I agree with you completely. Men's college basketball is the only one that doesn't play quarters. Should they play quarters or stick with halves? The fact is, honestly, Steve, we don't have halves now. We haven't had halves for like 100 years. I know.
We play it in what I call 4-minute chicken nuggets.
Yeah, exactly. It's we play it in commercial breaks.
Yes, and so I like the concept. I think resetting the fouls probably is a good thing, so you don't shoot as many free throws. The game goes more smoothly. I like that. So yeah, I'm for it. I wouldn't contort myself to make it happen, but I'm for it. And I think that I think we're really into habit here. If you get enough commercial breaks in an NBA game, why wouldn't we get enough in a college game? I mean, it just seems like if they can do it, then why couldn't the colleges do it? It's not like they don't have to pay for pretty big contracts that the networks have with the NBA. They're pretty substantial. So I'm sure that there's a way to do it mathematically to get the commercial breaks in.
I'm sure there is too, because when Penn State won the NIT in 2018, those games were all played with quarters. That was part of the experiment that year. And I thought it worked out just fine. You and I both know that whatever system they come up with, TV, and you certainly are brilliant on TV, but they want the games in 2-hour windows. That's what that's ideal. And honestly, the quarters facilitates that. The game goes faster in the quarters because not because there's just not as many timeouts or whatever. It's just because, as I said, with the reset of the fouls, you don't have as many free throws. That's right.
It definitely goes faster when you do that. And you can put the commercials into strategic timeouts or maybe one mandatory timeout halfway through the quarter and into the halves and the quarter breaks. Look, I'm not going to pretend that the commercial breaks aren't important to me, man. I mean, between Fox and BTN, we want to get our commercials in. But I just think it's a question of just somebody sitting down and crunching a few numbers, and it could happen fairly quickly.
Yeah, I think so too. Mike, always a pleasure. I always enjoy just throwing about 5,000 things out there at you because you always come back with something brilliant. I appreciate it.
Oh, it's always my pleasure, Steve. Thank you.
All right, the great Mike DeCourcy, and you see him on BTN, Fox, writes for Sporting News. He's just a wealth of knowledge. And again, there's just a lot going on right now. I think basketball practice is already is rolling now for most everybody across the country. You get 8 weeks. You get 1 hour a day, 4 days a week with them over these 8 weeks. Which will end up right around August 12th, somewhere in that neighborhood there. And, and everybody gets ready for the upcoming season. Same thing in football. Mike writes a lot about football, too. It's not just we talk about basketball. But seriously, because on the business side of it, if you notice when Tony Knopp and I talk on the business side of Premier League football, It's the business side, the way they run it, which is something that may be something that in this country they should take a look at. Mike's right. I absolutely, and I've heard more talk shows discuss relegation. And every time I hear it, I shake my head. You have to go with the system that your fans are used to. Okay? This country, for example, does not have 4 levels of college football and college basketball. I mean, talking about realistically, where you're relegated, you move up. That doesn't exist here, right? You have the Big Ten. Well, the Big Ten's the Big Ten. You're not going to relegate, pick school, and then elevate Miami of Ohio. That's not going to happen. That's not what the fans want either. All right. Half hour brought to you by our good friends at Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street in Sunbury, here on News Radio 1070 WKOK.
Party time, game time, or just fun time. Doesn't matter what time it is because it's Brewers Outlet time. The beverage supermarket has the area's largest beer selection. Imports, microbrews, ciders, and domestics. Pick from over 100 ice-cold 12-packs and dozens of 24-ounce singles. Soda, snacks, hot sauces, fresh roasted peanuts. Make it one-stop party shopping, and don't forget the pickle bar. So whatever you're celebrating or just doing it up, Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street, Sunbury wants to see you and thank you for your years of patronage.